And of course, it failed me today. The music did not kick in, but we're going to get started. Hi, folks. I'm Daniel J. Garza, and this is Put It Together Conversations podcast. Welcome to another great episode. It is Saturday, 5 p.m. I hope you got a drink or a cup of coffee and ready to join us for an hour of conversations. My guest today is Nicola Bertram. And let me start first by thanking my producers, Mr. Kevin Moyers and Mr. Jose Reyes with Hubris Management, and Jennifer Sims over at RPM Talent for bringing us together. Let me give you a little bit of info on Nicola. Her first IMDb credit was in 1999 with The Last Seduction 2. She's been in several TV series, Coronation Street, Casualty, EastEnders, and The Bill. Also some voiceover work, but her most recent work, which is where I noticed her, was as Gertie in Netflix, on Netflix's Hollywood. I don't know why I'm losing my English. You're making me nervous today, Gertie. How are you doing? I mean, Gertie.
Gertie. There's a story behind Gertie, I could tell you, but we will get to that later.
How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Again, thank you to Jennifer Sims over at RPM for putting this interview together. For those of you that know, I'm also an actor, and we're represented by the same agency, which is kind of cool. To be able to dig into some of the actors that are in the roster and collaborate. I love collaborating with my fellows from the agency. So thank you, Jennifer, for putting this together. How's your weekend going? How's everything going on for you?
It's all good. I've been doing almost nothing, which is perfect. Because I have a busy week, so I try to do nothing at the weekend.
And, you know, the weather kind of called for it today, too. It was, I don't know how it was on your end, but here in Laguna Beach, it was a little cloudy all day, gray.
Perfect. Perfect. It reminds me of home. It's gray and miserable, and I love it.
And you're like, just like home.
Yeah.
What do you like to do when it's cloudy and nasty outside?
I like to read. I'm a reader. I mean, I read lots of plays and things for work, but I actually like to just read to relax, really, because then I try not to watch too much television. I know that's bad because I'm an actress, but I like to read.
But actually, you know, you're not the first person I read. I'm a 70s kid. I grew up. Television was my babysitter forever. So babysitter. So TV calms me down. I like, especially now that there's so many streaming channels, to watch like old 70s shows, old 80s shows. It just completely relaxes me. But I know a lot of actors that don't watch television.
Well, no, don't say I don't watch it. I do watch it. I try to watch like a single episode of every show that's possible, just in case, especially if I get called in for it. And, you know, I think, I need to catch up and see what's what. And so I'll get HBO, and there's some great shows out there. I mean, for a great British show, it's called I May Destroy You. And it's by a girl that wrote and directed, a young black girl. She wrote and directed a show called Chewing Gum, and it was very, very funny. But this one is meant to be like a comedy drama, but it's quite serious, but it's fantastic. And it's very now, it's got a lot of social media in, and, you know, all these followers and likes and stuff, and Twitter. And it's a great story based on a true story. I do believe that she's going to win lots of awards from it. It's on HBO Max, and it's called I May Destroy You.
I made sure I'm going to watch it because on my on the Kristen and Daniel show, the show that I do with a partner on Wednesdays, we have our picks of the week that we talk about at the end of the show. So I'm going to check it out.
I totally recommend that. And also, have you seen the sequel to Borat yet?
No.
It just came out. Oh my God, it's so embarrassing. I mean, it's brilliant, but it's, you know, it's a political satire, so it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. But oh my God, I mean, it's kind of cringeworthy, but brilliant.
I wasn't a huge fan of some of his other work, but I do watch them just so that I know what people are talking about. But now, before I continue, I want to say a big hello to my friend Lluvia Solis, who I do a Spanish show with her on card readings. and she gave me this cool mask yesterday because we were gonna go out. So for all you folks in Orange County, she makes these masks and sells them. So I will post her information online. They're so well made, only $8 a mask, and she's right here in Orange County. So I will post the information. I told her that I was going to show it off because we went out for.
Nice. I like the silver. It's like I like armor. You know, like a coat of armor. It's cool.
We went out last night, and she was like, "You need a cute mask to wear." So Yulia, cool mask. Thank you so much. We're gonna talk about that. Before I go on to the questions, do you like to watch yourself when you on projects?
No. I mean, really, it takes me like months afterwards, and then I'll kind of be forced to look at whatever I did, and then I can say, "Oh no," or I can say, "Well, that's okay, that's it." But yeah, it takes me a long time. I've gotten better as I've gotten older, but in general, no, I just can't bear it.
I'm a ham for attention. I like watching myself, but then then I critique myself. And I'm like, why did you do that? Like that makes no sense. Like, why did you do it? But I do like to watch myself. But I'm
a little bit less like that. Very funny because I'm quite a kind of bubbly person, but I'm not at all like see me. I'm actually the opposite. That's why I say I like to sit at home and read and do very little. I'm terribly boring, I'm afraid. Really.
Well, interesting to let folks know because I'm always telling myself. I'm always a little panicky before the show starts because, like right now, the music didn't want to kick in. Of course, it didn't. But Nicola was actually talking me down. She was like, "Breathe, breathe." So I thought it's so funny that I'm the host and she's the one comforting me. So thank you for that. That was really
but I think I'm just a bit bossy, because I'm a mother. And I'm bossy boots, or what did they used to call me at school? Bats, for batty, a bit like, Batty Bertram. Yes, but in a nice way.
Batty Bertram. I'm gonna put that in here in your notes in your page. For everybody watching us, I want to say a big hello to the people that are already following us on the conversation. Thank you, Estela, and thank you, Father Robert, who watches all the way from Florida. He's one of my big followers. He's a priest over in Florida. And I always feel so blessed when he's watching the show. Like things are going to go well. For everybody else that's watching, I know some people were commenting before the show started. So if you want to comment, if you have a question for Nicola, please post it in the comment section and I will read it out for her. But you got to be in the Black comments section. If you just post it in the regular ones, I won't be able to see it. So please follow the thread and join us in the conversation. But let's get started. I want to know more about you. So Nicola Bertram, tell us how you put it together.
Oh, okay. So if we're going right back to the beginning, we'll have to say that I'm from Manchester in England, which is famous for many things. Of course, Manchester United Football Club. If anybody likes football, yay, I love football. It's also famous for the classical music, the Halle Orchestra, and very like pop music as well. So it's famous for that. So that's my hometown. And I've got a bit of a story because my grandfather was actually an African American. And he was in the Second World War. And he went over to England and met my grandma. But of course, in the day, it was segregated here. So things have changed a little bit, but not that much. So he couldn't take my grandmother with him. So he came back to the States. He's from Tennessee. And she never saw him again, ever. So that's quite sad, I know. But anyway, I've tried to find him for many, many years. And so a couple of years ago, I did one of these Genes United, what do you call that? Genealogy test.
Yes.
And I found some people that could be related to me. And so I looked them up on Facebook and I saw that they looked very like me, only more like my mother. So my mother came over from England for her 75th birthday, and we went to St. Louis, where they moved to, and we met them, and we were like, oh, it was so sweet. My mum had a sister that she never knew she had, and it was so lovely. We just all burst into tears. It was very, very sweet. So I always knew that I would come to America. And now that that's like a full circle story, that's kind of finished. It's not really finished because I have lots of cousins now in St. Louis that I'm in contact with, so that's lovely. But I've been here 13 years. I've been in LA, and I'm a citizen now.
Yay!
I know. That was a long journey, but I must tell you, when I first came here, we struggled so much. But I did find that people were super lovely and helpful and kind. I mean, one time we broke down on New Year's Eve up a mountain, right? We broke down, the car broke down. It was New Year's Eve. We didn't have AAA. We didn't have anything. I really knew few people in America. And one American friend of mine, I called her and she came all the way up the mountain. She called the AAA for me. She took us back to her house. She fed us and then took us to a party. I mean, we thought that we were in heaven. I mean, it was so wonderful. Her name is Lisa Moncure, by the way. So a big shout out to Lisa for that. Very sweet.
So, because from the IMDb credits that I read over, or your bio, you were already acting.
Oh, yes, I started acting in England. I mean, I was an old person, actually. When I say that, I mean, literally, when I was going to drama school at the age of 24, they told me that I would be too old when I graduated, that by that time I would have been 29 and that I would be considered an old woman. Seriously, I'm not joking. They said to me, I would never get work, I would never get a green card, I would never get SAG, all of these things that were being very negative about, and I've done them all, so so I left drama school at 29, so that was considered mature, and my very first job was an audition for this movie, The Seduction 2.
Okay.
So I went, it was in Wales, in Britain, England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales. Well, this was in Wales. And I turned up for the audition, very nervous. And I had this, it was like supposed to be Spanish or something. So I put my hair all back and slicked back and everything, and I turned up and they said to me, oh, you look Spanish. Just wait there while we try and find you something. I was like, really? They said, yeah. So I waited about an hour and then they did some things, auditioned some other people. And they said, perfect, we found something for you. Okay. I was like, oh, is this it? Is this how easy it is? And I was sadly mistaken. That was my first job. That was my first job. And I was so excited about it. But unfortunately, life is not like that. That was just a very lucky start.
Did you always have your eye on entertainment growing up, or what did you want to be growing up?
Do you know, I think other people knew more than I did that I was going to be an actress.
Okay.
Bizarrely, because they always used to say to me, oh, you do this and you write short stories and then you pretend to be this and you pretend. And I was just, I used to imitate people, imitate their accents. And I just really did not think about it until I was about, 19. And then I didn't have the courage to do it. I was just too ridiculous. How could I be an actress, And because it's a calling, I believe it's a calling, and because unless you have that real calling, you can't put up with this rejection and the misery that, we have to put up with, the rejection, one after the other, it's a tough game.
Yeah, I want to remind everybody watching, this is Put It Together Conversations podcast, and my guest today is Nicola Bertram, and we are talking about life. So far you're across the pond, as they say.
Yes.
When you decide that you've got your eye on America or the United States, how? Like, did you just say, well, it's time to go over, or?
Well, I did a big campaign, a commercial over there. And so I had what we call is a chunk of change. So I had a little bit of money. And we decided, my husband and I, at that time we had a 7-year-old son also. We still have him, but he's not 7. And just so you know, we didn't give him away or anything. We said, you're laughing, you're making me laugh. I want to do
funny.
comedy. That's my thing. I want to do comedy, but I always get these shows where I make people cry. Seriously. So we decided at that point: should we buy a house? Put a deposit on a house, or should we go on an adventure? And so we thought the adventure, because we're daredevils, we're actors, right? My husband was also an actor at the time.
Okay.
So we just thought, we'll come to America. Now, we're from the theater, so we didn't really think, oh, LA, there wouldn't be any theater. We thought that there'd be every kind of entertainment, including theater, when we came to LA. But we were kind of mistaken, and we probably should have gone to New York, actually, because that's where our heart lies, in theater. But we got here, there wasn't really much theatre, so that's when I started to do some more TV or some commercials. I did quite a lot of commercials, actually. And I think the reason I did commercials is because it only required for me to be away for like 1 day or something while I was looking after my son. So it was much easier than going on a 3-month tour in a play or something. So I think that's why I did commercials, really. And also it pays very nicely.
Now, is your son, is he also in entertainment?
No, my son, 22, he lives in New York at the moment, but he's coming back at the end of the week. Yay, it's exciting. He's not sure what he wants to do yet. He's a talented musician and writer, but he's not sure what he wants to do.
So you come to LA, you're here in LA,
yes.
And then...
So we came in 2007, and that was like the start of the crash kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that was tough, because also we were on O1 visas, which meant that we couldn't do anything apart from the entertainment world. And it was really tough. We were hungry. I mean, seriously. We went to the church once to get some food, and they gave us a chicken and some powdered milk, honestly. And I remember mixing the milk up and thinking I didn't want my son to know that I couldn't afford, proper milk or anything. But I still gave him his piano lesson every week. I still paid for his piano lesson because I thought it was important to try and maintain some kind of normal life, even though we were actually hungry. So I never forget that, and I think that's a good thing.
I give you credit for that, because I know that growing up, I was born in Mexico. We moved here when I was 3, and there were certain times in my parents' professional life when things were not great. But I never knew. Like, I knew we weren't rich, but I didn't think we were poor. Like, so I commend you, because my mom's passed, but I always told her, I'm like, I never knew we didn't have enough, because you never made me feel like I couldn't have something. So kudos to you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. But now, unfortunately, he's a rather privileged boy who believes that we have more than we have, and he spends a lot of money. But it's been a journey, but we've absolutely loved it, I have to say. So we got here in 2007. And then I was non-union at that time, so I had to do as much work as possible, and I was also trying to get my green card. So I just did everything and anything non-union, just to build up, like, we needed like a portfolio, really, to see that I was in the States and that I was working, that I was paying my way, and so I was doing that. I was driving a lot, working very, very hard, until I joined SAG. And my SAG card. Wow. Yes, I was thinking about that. How did I get my SAG card? I went in to do a voiceover audition, and I did it was for a Brit person. Okay, so that was not too difficult, right? Anyway, it was for the Olympics, at the Paralympics at the time. So I did it, and I did 2 or 3 takes, and then I left. And then my agent calls and said, oh, by the way, you booked that job. I said, oh, great. When do they want me to go in and do it? And they said, oh, no, we're going to use what we did in the booth. And I was like,
that's awesome.
Okay, I mean, that's great. But at that time I was a must join. So I had to join SAG on that job. And it didn't pay as much as what it was costing me to join SAG. So my wonderful friend, Lisa Moncure, again, rescued me and loaned me the money in order to join SAG, which was in 2010.
Wow.
So
So
things have only been...
for those of you watching and are not familiar with SAG is the union, is the Screen Actors Guild. So a lot of us, after doing so much work, that is union work, we have to join. I joined in 2017.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm really recent, yeah. But I've done a lot of films and stuff that were SAG, like, okay, if you want to keep working, you got to join now. So yeah. So it's a big deal for a lot of us because it's very expensive to join, and then you have to maintain it. And then during this time, it's been kind of difficult for a lot of us to make the money to pay the dues. So yeah.
Yeah, but I have been fortunate and worked quite a bit since then on various different projects. But to be honest, I still have been making most of my living through the commercial sector. And I'm super grateful because I'm able to get my insurance, which is a big deal.
Right.
And I'm just happy that I could get the insurance. Because
I feel like there was a memory that popped in there for a second.
Well, there was, because I come from a country where we don't pay for insurance. It's part of
Oh.
what they call, we call it national insurance, and
Right.
it's a nominal amount of $10 a month or something. I mean, really, and that insures all of your medical. So I never understood the whole thing about the medical insurance and how drastic and how criminal it is. And really, it's astonishing to me that people pay this amounts of money to be, covered by insurance, or not, and not have any insurance and then become bankrupt, or, that's another story, and let's not get political because
Yes.
like, oh.
There's always a question that I like to ask my guests when I know they're immigrated. What was one of the first things that you realized was a myth about the United States?
Oh, a myth. Oh, I don't know, because, first of all, I always had a little thing about the United States because of my grandfather. So I was always in love with it in a different way than a lot of immigrants are. And when I got here, I didn't expect anything in particular, although, you see it in the movies and everything's this and that. And I purposely didn't look at anything to do with LA. I didn't even know what it looked like. I didn't know where it was. I just was coming. That was it.
Wow.
So I landed and thought, wow, I'm in the northeast of LA, so it's a lot greener. It's not like the west side, it's all fancy. Mine is really green and mountainous and hilly and stuff. And I thought it was really beautiful. I just think LA is just gorgeous. We've got the mountains, we've got the ocean, we've got, the desert. It's really gorgeous, but I guess it depends where you live, right? And your circumstances, like anything. But so to me, the thing that was the most surprising was just how lovely people have been to me.
Nice.
Good.
That's really nice. Having gone back and forth to Mexico, a lot of my friends, I grew up in Dallas, and a lot of my friends in Mexico, this is during the late 70s, 80s, I was born in 1970, but my friends in Mexico had this vision that it was all like Dallas, the show. They really thought it was that. And I'm like, we don't all live in big ranches. Like, that is not true. Like, we don't drive our fancy cars up into downtown Dallas. Like, that is not. But I did get away with being eccentric a lot because people thought that's how you should act. Everybody should be like J.R. Ewing, obnoxious and loud and big. And so I got away with it a lot. So that was
that's so funny. That's so funny. No, but I do think that, especially in LA anyway, you can be yourself, you can be free, and you can just do whatever, and it's okay. Not obviously not going to harm somebody, but just to be yourself. Where in some cities, in many countries around the world, it's not okay to be yourself, especially if you're part of the LGBT community, or whether you're Black or even people of color, or I would be called passing, so it doesn't bother me and nobody bothers me. They might say I'm French or Italian or Spanish or that thing, and that's okay because to them it's exotic and whatever. But I'm fortunate in that way, but there are lots of other ways that it's not fortunate to be a person of color in this country, so that's not good.
Yeah, when I first saw your name, before I knew who you were,
Yes.
or I had heard your voice, Well, I had heard your voice. I just didn't know. Like, anyway, but before I put it all together, who you were, I thought you were Italian because of the name, and I was ready to be like Nicola. I was like, she's
Oh
it sounds
yeah,
very Italian.
Nicola, Nicola.
Yeah, yeah. I was going in that direction, but
What?
I will say this: the photo that that I got for your flyer for the announcement does not do you justice. I think yes. I don't want to like. Okay, I'm gonna blush. So I'm gonna move on from that.
Blushing. And wait a minute, I was born in 1966, so I'm a bit older than you.
You're 4 years older than me.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll be 50 this December. I keep saying
Wow,
that.
how exciting.
Yeah.
You know, for 50, I was really worried about being 50. And I went to Vancouver for my 50th birthday. I loved it. It was so nice because I love traveling. That's one of my favorite things to do is to travel. But Vancouver was very sweet. I imagine it was like LA 30 years ago. You know,
Interesting.
yeah, it was sweet. And really good public transport, unlike LA.
Yeah, I'm. Excuse me. Yeah, I somehow think like whenever people say like the universe or God have a sense of humor, I'm like, of course they do, because this has been professionally has been one of my best years. I celebrated 13 years clean and sober. This is my 20th anniversary of being HIV positive. I'm turning 50, like all these major accomplishments, and we have COVID. And I'm like, yay. So I'm like,
That's fantastic. That's congratulations. Me too. I've had a great year. I mean, it started off with I had a day filming Hollywood, which was the 3rd episode, which was brilliant. We'll get to that. And then, whilst I was on set working with Rob Reiner, you know who he is, don't you? Da-da-da. I'm not name dropping because I'm serious, right? I didn't even know who Rob Reiner was, so I was just like, I was telling my friend. A shout out to Brad Griffith. I was telling my friend, oh, I'm doing this show and I'm working with Patti LuPone and Rob Reiner. And he's like, excuse me, you know. And I'm like, well, I really didn't know. So anyway, we're chatting away and him and I just kind of clicked and, you know, we had a laugh and I was playing his maid, Gertie, right? His house servant, slave person, whatever. So we're chatting away and then he said to me, well, have you ever played a therapist? And I said, well, no, but I often get doctors and that kind of role. And he said, oh, well, my daughter is doing a short film. Would you be interested? I was like, well, yes, of course. So he said, how can I contact you? And I said, well, just text me. You know, I gave him my number, text me. So then the Christmas happened. And then on the first day back from Christmas, my phone rang and it was Rob Reiner. I was like, I nearly choked. It was so funny. And anyway, I did the short film. She's very, very sweet, Romy. I did the film with her, which is like a black comedy. And it's really up my street because I want to do more comedy. That's why I'm angling that way. So that was fun.
Funny. You're funny. So yeah, I can see that. Yeah, just because again, I'm a child of the 70s, All in the Family.
Yes,
Rob Reiner, yeah, Michael Stivic. I had such a crush on him in the 70s growing up. And I was crushed and kind of not. I think that was when my obsession with bald men came because I remember reading that he had a wig of a hairpiece for the show because he was already balding, and I thought, oh, how is that possible? But yes, if Rob Reiner, if you're watching this, just know that you were my childhood. You were one of my first little gay crushes that I had on top.
Oh, and well, just let me tell you that he's lovely and wonderful and sweet and kind, and all of those things as well. So yeah, so that was my second job of the year. And then I also had a commercial that I thought wasn't going to started to run. So for me, it's been like my best year so far. So it's like, I really feel very grateful, and happy and just delighted to be able to weather this storm, because I know, unfortunately, a lot of people are not able to, and it's really tough. And I've tried to donate to like the SAG Foundation or to other people that I know that it's difficult for them to get through. Not that I'm rich, so please don't send me any I like some money letters because I haven't got any. I try to support in other ways, mostly, with time or, support. Like I listen to people on the phone if people are feeling down or whatever, and
Yeah.
I'll just be there to listen. And sometimes that's all it takes,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let me give a reminder here for those of you watching us. This is Putting Together Conversations podcast, and I am your host, Daniel G. Garza. My guest today is Nicola Bertram, and we are talking about life as usual. Make sure that you share the show. If you're watching and you're liking it, share it with your friends, post it on your page so that people can watch it. And if you want to make a comment, if you want to ask a question, make sure you go into the dark thread of the show, and that's where you can post your questions or any comments, and I'll be sure to read them online. If you missed part of this, you can catch it on replay, or you can listen to it later on abnormalentertainment.com, where I have all of my shows, and you can go check those out there. Can we talk about Hollywood now?
Hollywood. Oh my God, it was my favorite ever. It was so wonderful. But I must tell you, that came from, my mother was here, I told you, because I took her to see the family in St. Louis. So when she's here, she likes to run around town with me on auditions, but I had to kind of leave her outside or in a cafe, because it's not really good to take your 75-year-old mother with you at auditions. It's like, oh, so no, I like to leave her outside. So I'm very good. I usually give her a cup of tea or some coffee or something. I don't tie her to the lamppost or anything like that.
You crack the window before you go. Leave her in the car.
No. So you made me laugh. So anyway, I literally rushed in. I said one line and then I rushed out and forgot all about it. And then the following week I went for another maid. I've never been for a maid in all my life. And suddenly I go for 2 maids in the same week, or the same month rather. And I forgot about it. And then my agent just called, the lovely Jennifer from RPM. Yeah. And she said, oh, you booked the job as the maid. And I was like, well, which maid? What job? And she said, oh, it's Hollywood. But we don't really know anything about it at that time, so we just said, okay. So I turned up and I realized, oh, this is quite a big show. And Patti LuPone is there. And my first scene is with Patti LuPone and Joe Mantello. And then who's the other wonderful actress? She was in 2.5 Men. She played the mother.
Yes. Oh, I know who you're talking about. She's in my head.
Paulson's partner. What's her name? You know who I mean.
Yes. For those of you, she's gonna pop in my head. Keep talking. I'm gonna look her up.
Anyway, so it was her, and that was my first scene, and I thought, oh my God, it was just fabulous. But anyway, I think either they liked me or they realized that I should be in the house because they've already seen me, and so they brought me back for another day, and then another, and then it ended up being 3 episodes. But it was actually just a 1-day, 1-line co-star, and that's what the role was. And then it became this role. So when I turned up to the hair and makeup, or H&R as H&M, hair and makeup, I'm sitting in there, and then this the lady, we can't think of her name,
Holland Taylor. Yes,
so Holland Taylor was on one side of me, and Patti LuPone is on the other side of me, and I'm sitting there very quietly getting everything done, and they're getting all their stuff done. And they started to look at their lines for the day. And they said, well, so who's this servant then? Who's this servant? And they said, Holland Taylor says, she must have a name, because, I mean, if I've been coming to your house for 20 years, then I would know who she is, and she should have a name, And then Patty's like, yeah. And I go, they said, I said, well, I'm actually the servant, so I'll be playing that. Oh, okay, what's your name then? I said, Nicola. She went, no, that's not going to do. You're not, she can't be Nicola, because it was a period piece, right? And I said, well, I'm playing Gertrude Stein at the Celebration Theatre at the weekend. So Gertrude Stein was called Gertie. So Gertie might fit with the role, because that's the same period of time, right? So Holland goes, that's it. We're going to call you Gertie. And then Patti was like, okay. So we didn't think anything of it, and off we went. And then I did the scene. I came in, I'm saying, anybody for canapes or whatever it is. And Holland Taylor goes, "Oh, Gertie, it's too." And so it was already in the scene then. It was in the script. So they had to call me Gertie. And then they wrote my name and put me in the show as Gertie. So I was like, yay.
That is, I mean, that's just like magic. Like you just, well, I'm going to say this because you have a really great energy. So I can only imagine that your energy guardian angels just opened the doors for you and had the situations happen. It's really cool.
Well, I was very grateful, and I think that I do believe that, whatever you're putting out, that you will get back. And I think, if you're going and you're guarded and you're angry, and that's what you're going to get back. And I think that I'm open, and people say to me, "Oh, LA, nobody talks and blah, blah." I'm like, I know everybody in my supermarket, in Trader Joe's, and, they know me and they're hi. And I think that you just have to be yourself and be authentic, and then people will be the same way back, I think.
Exactly. So you talked earlier, I want to go back a little bit in your story about, just to get, because now that we're talking about energy and good vibes.
Yes.
When you were going through the hard times, making powdered milk, what did you have a pep talk for yourself? How did you get through those moments?
I think I was so busy trying to, put everything together and keep my son, not knowing about the situation, then driving. One year I drove 58,000 miles just in LA because I was dropping off my husband who was teaching drama down in Santa Monica. We were living up in Altadena. And then I was doing a job with like a personal assistant for an opera singer at the time. And she was up in Monrovia. And I was, demented. So I was just too busy to think about being down, really, to be honest, and not thinking, just knowing that keep doing the work, keep doing the work, keep doing the work. And if I keep doing that, then things will pay off. And I believe they do. Don't get me wrong. I'm definitely not flying up there, but I do work, and that's important. And I also get my insurance, which is also important.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm successful in that I've survived and that I'm in the game, and that's important to me. But I think I just didn't really give myself time to go to that place. I was just keeping on going. Even now, I always think, what can I do better? What can I do more? How can I do this? And I think, okay, so that didn't go so well. What did I do that could have been better? And then I always go back to acting, meaning I go back to basics, and I'll go back and look at Michael Chekhov, or I'll look at Meisner, or I'll just always go back to the craft and see how I can improve. And it's not about me, whether that I'm a good or bad actor. It's just that, I'm not right for that project. I'm not, people say, "Oh, can you do an American accent?" And I can do an American accent, but the truth is, why? There are 330 million Americans here, and then I'm going to be like everybody else. So I try to be authentic and be myself. And because when young actresses come here and they want to get the lips done, they want to do their things and what have you, that's not going to get you work. What's going to get you work is you being you. That's this essence. That's just you. You're unique. Everybody is unique, right? And I think if I was ever asked my opinion, about what to focus on, is just focus on being your authentic self and being true to yourself, and the work. It's always about the work, and then not stardom, not this and that, just the work. Do the best work that you can, and then work will come, I believe.
Yeah. So if you had 3 favorite adjectives to describe Nicola Bertram, how would you describe her?
Ooh, I say 3 favorite adjectives about me. Oh my God. I would say a positive, yeah, and light-spirited, and I guess fun.
You definitely are fun. And the way you tell the stories, I really am enjoying your storytelling. It's not Yes, because there's a lot of name dropping in those stories, but it doesn't sound pretentious. It doesn't
I didn't mean
sound
it to be like that. It
no,
was.
and I'm just like, girl, like I'm about to have like my geek moment, like what? So it's totally cool. It's totally cool. What has been
Oh.
aside from this, aside from Hollywood, which is your latest? Um, I'm not gonna ask that question because it puts it on the spot. But
Which
what
one's my
attracts you to
favorite?
projects? Yeah, but I'm not gonna ask it. So I'm gonna ask what attracts you to projects? What attracts you to a character?
Well, you know, one could say just about anything because it's going to pay, but that's not true. What I mean is, it's very, very hard for an actor to turn down work. But recently, I was sent a script that is kind of Mad Max type of script. And whilst I was really grateful to receive the script, because not many people do just get scripts flying at them, you know, it was too violent for me. So it wasn't really my cup of tea. I don't really want to advocate violence, especially towards women. And I think it's unnecessary. And I think we've lived our entire lives being violent, you know, acts towards us, either physically, emotionally, or whatever. So I try to avoid that. And I try to be involved with things that are positive and women friendly, LGBT friendly, and inclusive, really. Yeah, things that are inclusive, because this world is cruel at times. And I think if you can just be open and warm and accept everybody for who they are, and as long as they don't come towards to harm you, right? Then why not? And
Yeah.
what's the problem? I just don't see. So inclusive is my
I
game.
remember I did a trailer pilot storyboard. One of those indie things where everything is in one video. Um, and I played a rapist. And well, first of all, everybody knows I being gay, I've been with a woman, so I didn't know the proper it was
What
really
to
dumb
do?
because I was like, where do I put what do I do? So the girl was kind of coaching me along. It's like, okay, grab me here, grab me there. And I was like, okay. And the director producer guy kept directing me and saying, you need to get madder, you need to get angry.
Angry and
I want you
rage.
mad. And then I kept analyzing the character. And I'm like, I don't know that I'm mad at her. I said, I'm not. I don't think I'm mad. I'm mad at myself. So there's let me try to project that by like the 30th take that we did of this 1 minute scene, I was so tense and stressed out. Um, when we finally finished, I was crying. I was bawling. She was comforting me. She's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "This was just
Awful.
yes." I'm like, I never want to be in this situation again. I'm not a rapist,
No, no, no,
but
no, no.
but I'm like, I don't find anything appealing in this character. I'm like, I don't know. And then when they came around and they were offering the roles, they called me and they're like, would you like, we want to make sure that I'm like, and I was like, no, I don't think I want to do that. And
Exactly. And whilst this role was, it was a small role, but it was interesting. The first thing is that she had been very attractive in her day, but half of her face was now scalded because some guy had put some acid attack on her. And then in the second half, she was shot in the face, and I'm sorry, but I can't do that. It's like I don't need to do that. People don't need to see that. We've seen enough of it, and especially against women. So I totally get it. I did a rape scene many years ago with a friend of mine was doing the action like what you were doing, and we knew it was pretend, but it's so awful, so awful. It's unbelievable. So I try, and that's what I'm saying. I want to do comedy. I want to do comedy because I'd much rather make somebody laugh and smile and be happy, and especially in these dark times, than make them unhappy or sad. I know my story at the beginning was a little bit sad, but it's sad in that kind of warming way, about my grandfather and then about being hungry. But they're different than these kind of dark times,
Yeah. But for those of you, I there's something I used to not understand what that meant, that when actors would talk about, oh, that I was really like scarred from this project, but I still, like, I remember the girl screaming, like, even if it was fake, I still remember her screaming and how disturbed I was, because I have two sisters and I have nieces, and I just kept thinking, I don't want them to see me do this. And my mom was still alive at that time. I'm like, I would never show this to my mom. Like, I wouldn't want her to see me raping a woman. Like, that's just horrible. So yeah.
Exactly. So let's just wash that out of our hair.
We're about 45 minutes from the end of the show, folks. I want to remind you, this is Put It Together Conversations podcast, and I'm your host, Daniel G. Garza. My guest today is the lovely and funny Nicola Bertram. And at about this time is when I ask my guest if you have any words of wisdom for the people watching or listening.
Oh, do I have any words of wisdom?
Yes.
Oh my God, now you're asking. That's kind of like the blind leading the blind. Do I assume like a person full of wisdom? I don't know about that. Yeah, you know, having said that, I am very sensible generally. And yeah, I am very sensible actually. And
like how that just did was a surprise. Wait a minute. Oh yeah.
I know, I'm surprised myself. I'm actually sensible.
This is what we do on the show. We surprise people with themselves.
But we laugh. But anyone that knows me knows that I am the hardest working, very focused actor in the sense that I love my job. I just love that I get to act. And I want to do more and get better. And yes, I'd love an Oscar. And yes, I'd love a BAFTA and a Tony and an Emmy and all of those things. And that's where I'm heading, right? I'm heading in that direction. Whether I achieve them, that's irrelevant really, because it's the journey, right? And my journey so far has been amazing. And I'm just super happy that I'm able to sit here and talk to you and be safe and, you know, and still in the game really. And I just love it. And I get very excited about it.
And your words of wisdom?
No, I told you I don't have any.
Okay, so we'll narrow it down. If you could talk to a young actor back in England that wants to make the move out here, what would you tell them?
Okay, I would say, unless it really is something that's a calling to you and you absolutely cannot and do not want to do anything else ever in the world, then go for it. And then, you know, I would definitely recommend perfecting an American accent before you get here. You know, so I don't do one. The truth is I do one, but it's just not very good, right? So there are lots of things you can do from over there before you come here. And the American accent work would be one of them. So, but other than that, no, I think if you're totally driven and you are passionate and that's what you have to do, then go for it.
And if it's any consolation, folks, I've lived in this country since I was 3 years old, and I still have not mastered the American accent. So let's just we can put that into, don't let this be the standard for it. But you know,
no, you sound great. I like your accent.
Thank you. I've told the story before, and I'll say it really quick. When I was in business school, I had a typing teacher, and I believe, if I remember, her name was Jera Brown, very Texan, big hair. And I just come back from studying high school in Mexico, so my accent was a little thicker. And she came up to me and said, look, you're about to go work in corporate and offices. You're going to be the face of or front desk. You need to work on your accent. And she arranged for me to go and do a month of linguistic classes. So for 2 times a week for a month, I went with a friend of hers who taught at the community college. And did Peter Piper pick the pickle peppers?
Peter Piper
Sheila says seashells by the seashore. And that's how I got back my English, because I grew up speaking English and I lost it.
Oh, so funny. So you speak Spanish?
Yes.
But you speak Spanish because my husband speaks Spanish actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, hello to the husband. Hola, mucho gusto.
No, I sent him out.
Oh, you did.
I can't. I'm trying to have a conversation with another guy. So,
Yes.
I think
I expect total privacy with these conversations. No, just kidding.
exactly.
But I was going to say, England puts out a lot of great projects. There's a lot of great productions coming out of there. So I want to go there and work on something. I wonder how they would take a little Mexican guy out in England.
Oh my God, they love you. They think you're gorgeous. Yeah. No. I mean, it's difficult either way, back and forth. I think the reason why a lot of Brits come to America is because it's, the stuff that comes out of America is not just American, right? It's global. So and the money's here and the work's here. So a lot of Brits and Australians come here because, it's global projects and it's funded globally as well. So because sometimes I feel there's a little bit of anti-British sentiment that I pick up, which is a bit unfair. Because, if they were referring to me being some other color, it would be seen as prejudice, right? But because I'm British, it's okay. But really, sometimes it's not. And I hear it and I think, and, they'll say things like, oh, well, see, all the Brits are coming here taking our jobs. And that's not true. I think the thing is, as I say, it's globally funded and it's a global project. So therefore, they're going to have global people. And these big stars are global actors, right? Yeah. So I think it is difficult the other way around because we don't have the same kind of output as the Americans do. And our projects sell because they're British. Do you know what I mean? Like Downton Abbey, for example, that's very British. It's a very particular style. So that's, having an American in there, which we did have two, actually. We had two. Because the mother of the main character, she's an American, Elizabeth McGowan or McGowan. And then her mother came in, which was, of course, the fabulous, what's her name? Oh, my God.
To be honest, I have not seen the show.
Oh, my God, you should watch.
I've heard, it's before, because I was all about, like, network television shows. And I took cable out, and now I just binge shows. But that's how I know, because Netflix has a very good collection of British shows, and I love them. And I try to practice the accent along with it, because I know one day I'm going to be out there working, and I that's on my vision board, like to go out there and do something. Yeah.
Perfect. Also, anyone that works in this town that's a Brit, they know that they've been looked after, because when they go to craft services, they've always got PG tips there. And PG tips is the tea that we like a lot.
Got it. I'm going to remember that next time. I'm going to remember that. Let me give some information before we go. For everybody who's been watching, we're down to the last minute. This has been Put Together Conversations podcast. I am your host, Daniel G. Garza. And I want to remind you that through Little Mexican Productions, every Wednesday night, we have the Christian and Daniel show at 7:30 p.m. On Fridays, we have the Card Devo at 6 o'clock. And on Saturdays, you can find us here, an occasional noon show. We have a little bit of a noon show sometimes, so you can find information on certain health topics, or the Spanish shows are at noon, and then our regular Put Together Conversations at 5 o'clock on Saturdays. You can also find me on TikTok on Monday nights at 9 p.m. doing also another Card Devo series, and occasionally I pop up on Instagram for some of the live readings. So you can jump on there and actually ask your own question live and you'll get answered. If you have any suggestions, if you want to be on the show, please feel free to contact me either here on one of the other shows. Just go to the messenger, drop me a line, let me know that you have a topic to discuss and you want to be on the show. Just come and join us, especially if I already know you. I love having people that I already know on the show. I also want to tell you about some of the Spanish stuff that I'm doing. You can find me with Lluvia Solis on her shows every other Thursday doing readings in Spanish. And this Monday coming, if you're watching this on replay, I hope you don't miss it. But Monday the 26th, I'm going to be on Decisiones, which is a Spanish show, and we're going to be talking about Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead. So we'll be doing a whole lot of card readings and talking about candles and colors. So if you speak Spanish, you want to catch the shows, please do so. And you can always follow me on Little Mexican Productions page, and all the invites and information are there, so you can catch up with us. I want to also thank my director and partner, Christian Paul Ramirez, for all his help and support, Mr. Kevin Moyers, Mr. Jose Reyes, and our agent, Jennifer Sims, who made this possible for us over at RPM and Hebrews Management. Thank you, guys. Any last comments? Anything else you want to say before we go?
Oh, no, I probably want to say gracias. Gracias, because we say in Spanish, in Spain, there with the
yes.
Gracias. Yeah.
Well, okay. Before we go, I'm curious about that because I watched, of course, being from Mexico, we watch a lot of Spanish movies and shows. So they always have the teta, the seta, but then when British people are doing anything in Spanish on a British project, is it because it's so close that they have the seta too? Is that how you guys learned Spanish?
Oh, I don't know. My husband taught himself, but that's there. And I speak Spanish in this movie, The Last Seduction, too, but it's so awful. It's so terrible. I got my friend to tape it for me, and I just said, say those words. And now that I watch it occasionally, I think, oh my God, how did you do that? Why? It's embarrassing. But, I often am cast in like Hispanic roles, maybe in Spanish or even, or Latin, say, or Latino, but when I don't have to speak, just because I look. And this is funny that my husband speaks Spanish, right? So if we're out together, sometimes he speaks Spanish, and you know what they do? They ignore him and they reply to me. And I just sit there and I don't know what you're saying, but I don't speak Spanish.
Interesting enough, my partner, Christian, who's half Hawaiian, half Mexican, very tall guy, they will do that too. I will, like, if you go to Mexican restaurants, I always order in Spanish because I'm very particular about my food. I want it right. But they will turn to him and speak to him in Spanish because he's bigger and taller.
Fair, yes.
And I'm like, is he because he's the bigger gay? That's why you talk to him?
No.
What's the deal here? But
because you're very fair-skinned.
You think so? I think it's the lighting and the fact that I haven't been out in the sun lately. Well,
I look orange. I look like Donald Trump.
We're gonna blame this on Christian because he's usually the light director.
He's supposed to do the lighting, and now I look like I've been under a sunbed or something.
And I'm gonna call him out. He's out getting a manicure and pedicure with one of his friends. So I'm gonna he was not here he didn't show up to work today. So we're gonna call him out on that.
Well, you tell him, because now he's ruined my entire reputation. Because now I look like Trump. I look orange. I look like I've been under sunbeds. And
You've ruined my chance of working with Nicola again, Christian. This is all on you. But I would love one day to do something comedic with you. You are so funny.
Oh, yes, please.
And you have such great energy. So anybody out there watching us and you're like, oh, I have a script for you guys. We're ready.
Comedy.
Again, for everybody watching, please make sure you check her out. Go back and rewatch if you've already seen it. Go check out Hollywood on Netflix. And you make an appearance on episode 3. Is that what you're saying?
I think I'm in 3, 5, and 7.
Awesome. So go check her out. Go check out her IMDb page will also be in the thread. So you can check out some of her other projects. What's coming up? Do you have anything planned already?
Oh my gosh, what's coming up? Oh, I just did a couple of auditions this week, so they're pending. Can't really say about those because they're NDAs. So we'll see. But in the meantime, I'm trying to teach myself French. This was my pandemic thing, is French, but it's not very good.
With that said, I am not going to put you on the spot and have you say anything in French.
Pourquoi non?
What does that mean?
Why not?
Oh yeah. Would you like to say a goodbye to everybody in French?
Au revoir. Ah, oui. Au revoir. À demain. À bientôt. See you soon. I love you all. You're all marvelous. This was so fun.
Thank you so much. Don't hang up. We're going to talk before you leave. Again, for everybody watching, Little Mexico Productions is up and running. Make sure you check us out. Also, we've got some stuff up on YouTube. So make sure you follow us there. Follow me on all the basic social media pages, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Go the new ones, Likey. Rizzle. Go check us all there. Remember that on Monday mornings, you can catch me with my horoscopes for the week on all of the social media pages. Check them out. If you would like to contact the Card Debo for any readings or spiritual coaching, just reach out one-on-one. I know some people have been asking about that. You can just reach out to me anytime and I will answer back. Our official email is danielggarza@littlemexicanproductions.com. That's the official company email. So if you go there, email there, I can respond on behalf of anything that we do. Again, that's Daniel G. Garza at Little Mexican, LILMESICAN Productions, all one word, .com. And we will answer to anything you want. Again, thank you, Jennifer, for setting this up for us. It was a pleasure. Nicola, thank you so much for being on the show. For everybody watching, have a good one. This is Daniel Garza saying, hey, keep it together.